Okay, it is 4 o'clock, January 18th, 2022. We are in the Washington City Council chambers in Washington City, Utah. This is a special meeting to appoint fill the vacancy to the Washington City Council. This meeting is also broadcast via YouTube Live, linked at washingtoncity.org. We will start with an invocation by Councilman Ivey, and then I've asked our friend Lori Saunders to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, Mrs. Saunders, if you'd come forward.
Good evening, everyone. Please stand. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mrs. Saunders. At this time, I will call for a motion to approve the agenda for this special meeting as outlined.
Mayor, I can make that approval of the agenda as outlined.
I have a motion by Ivey,
Second.
second by Casperson. All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. That might be the easiest part of the night. Item 2 is Midterm Council vacancy appointment. Item 2A, City Council applicant interviews. So I'll take some time now to explain the process. First of all, let me just say thank you to each of the applicants for being here and for having the courage to apply to serve on the Washington City Council. I can tell you by virtue of having served on the council for 6 years, and frankly being the reason this seat is open, that it is a sacred duty, honor, and privilege to serve Washington City and those who live here. I can also tell you that it's not always an easy job, as is the case tonight. I know most of you personally, and I appreciate our friendship and our association. I have read through each letter of intent that was submitted, as has each of the council members here with me. I think I speak for each of us here in stating the high regard in which we view each of you and your ability to serve the residents of Washington City. Now, this is an appointment proceeding, not an election, though I would like to express how much I admire and appreciate those of you who have run in prior, especially recent elections. There is a considerable amount of sacrifice and preparation throughout that process. At the end of this special meeting of appointment today, one from among you will be appointed by majority vote of the City Council to serve, and we will welcome and support you as an equal member of the Council for the duration of the term being filled, which, by the way, is until December 31st, 2023. I apologize. I spoke at the chamber, and I think I would have kept going if somebody hadn't stopped me. Sections of the Utah Code detail the process for filling midterm council vacancies. In reading through the code and consulting with the Utah League of Cities and Towns, other municipalities, and the Lieutenant Governor's Office, as to the correct process, we will proceed as follows. There will be a first and a second round of voting. The entire proceeding is done with proper noticing and in accordance with the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act. In the first round, I will draw names out of a Washington Utah Little League All-Star hat. I thought that was a nice touch. You know, the Washington Little League, they actually won Utah and were able to represent Utah at the Little League tournament down in San Bernardino. So I stole this hat back from one of my daughters and thought it would be appropriate to draw the names out. So I'll continue on. To determine the order in which each candidate present will interview. When your name is called, please come to the mic and share with the council why you are the right person to be appointed. You will have 3 to 5 minutes to speak. I will keep time on my cell phone, which is in airplane mode, as each of yours should be as well. At the conclusion of your remarks, I will turn to the council and allow for a few questions if they so choose, and I will give each applicant up to 1 minute to respond. Once every applicant has been interviewed, I will ask the city recorder to share the voting ballots electronically with each council member. This will be done via email to your city email. So you will click on the ballot, which lists each applicant's name in random, essentially as per the Lieutenant Governor's office for this voting period, in that order. On that ballot, type your name on the Google form and then mark next to your 2 applicants in the first round. You vote for 2 applicants in the first round. So each of the 4 council members will do that, and then I will clearly open and close the voting period. If there is a tie in the first round, a ballot listing the tied applicants will be provided, and I will ask the council to vote again between those who are tied. If it remains a tie, I will vote as mayor to break the tie as per city code and state statute. Once completed, the city recorder will verify the voting, the accuracy of the voting, and announce the top 2 who will be on the ballot for the final round. We will then proceed to the second and final round. I will invite the 2 candidates to come forward in random order to speak to the council for 3 to 5 minutes once more, and to answer any additional questions the council may have for them. The vote will be taken again in the same manner as before, with each council member voting for only one of the 2 remaining applicants. If there is a tie, I will exercise my right as mayor and vote to break the tie as per city code and state statute. The city recorder will again verify and read the results. We will now start the first round interviews. And the first applicant to speak is Cody Mitchell.
I was going to say there's a first time for everything, but I guess this is the second time I've actually spoke this mic. I'm Cody Mitchell, born and raised here in Washington. Currently live out in Washington Fields. We're building our 4th home in the Silver Falls subdivision, and just really love that area. I have prepared a few thoughts that I will share, and in doing that, and thinking of how I might share, I want to use the word city council, and I've got a little thought with the first, with the letters of city council that I'll go down through. The first one I have is city constitution. When city council members are sworn in, they are committed to follow the city constitution. I know that having a general plan is important, and I also know that decisions governing that general plan are very important as well. And I know that the city council members take pride in making sure that those decisions are good for the citizens of our city. I is integrity. We need members of city council who have integrity, who are honest to themselves and to the citizens whom they represent and serve. I come seeking this position clean. I have no hidden agendas. I have nothing to gain from the position, but just have a desire to serve and to help out. I'm at a time or a stage in my life where my time is available and feel like it would be a good time for me to be able to serve and to help the community. T is for team. I liken the city council to a team. Teams need to be unified to be great. That doesn't mean that each team member has to see everything the same way, but it does mean that once the final decisions are made, that each member works together, helping each other to achieve the end goal. Why I had youth. The youth are the future. If we want a bright future, we will need bright generations to follow. It starts with children and youth. Let's find ways to educate and involve and help our children and youth learn the plan for the city so that they can take ownership and be positive contributors. C is for community. When I was young, the celebrations were a highlight. We knew each other. The Staleys, the Nelsons, the Nysons, the Sandbergs, the Iversons, the Jollies, the Stapleys, the Molesses, the Turners, and many more. There was food, there was games, the entertainment, the Nyson band, and the Nyson piano, and the races. I actually lost a race to Mayor back in that day. Mayor Staley is fast. Events can help keep a community close. Organization. The city council is part of a whole city organization. As members, we will impact the future development and organization of our city. We need commercial businesses in addition to residential development. I believe we need a good balance of commercial, industrial, and residential growth. It can't just be all one. We need it all. U is for Utah. We live in a great state of Utah that was founded by our pioneers. I'm sure that if not all of us, many of us in this room had family members who helped build this state and our city out of the dust. Let's continue the legacy and work hard to maintain and improve our great city. N is nation. If we want to protect our great nation, we need good leadership starting in the cities. C, I had canal. I grew up playing in the canal as a child. That once was and now still provides needed water for the few farmers that are left. As our city continues to grow, we will need water in addition to our current springs and resources to live. Those and other challenges will not be easy decisions, but they will be important decisions. Infrastructure. Washington City has some unique situations. Growing from a small city to a large city comes with challenges. How we handle those challenges affects everyone in our community. We need to take care of the infrastructure that we have, as well as building new for what will come. L is love. I love Washington City. This is where I was raised. This is where my wife, Rachel Everett, was raised. Our family combined has great roots here in the city. And this is where we continue to raise our 5 wonderful children. I want to see our city prosper, but I want our city to always be a great place to call home. I'm grateful for the chance to be considered for this position and just grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. If you'd stay there for just a moment. I really appreciated your remarks.
No problem.
Council, do any of you have questions for Mr. Mitchell?
Just a comment. That was Very well spoken, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thought you did a fine job. I thought it was great, so.
Mr. Mitchell, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yes.
You mentioned that we need to have a balance in our city, not only residential, but commercial and industrial. Will you speak as to why that's important?
Yes. My first thought that comes is, to my knowledge, we don't even have a grocery store currently within Washington
Other than
City.
Albertsons, Walmart, but
Walmart, to go up there. But I was thinking, there's, as the city grows, obviously those types of things will be important. I feel like there's a huge residential boom in our city, but I don't feel like there's a lot of commercial. And I feel like that there needs to be commercial to sustain, the opportunities to grow, for people to come, to work, to make a living. So I feel like a rounded residential, commercial, industrial makes for those opportunities for the citizens that live here.
I have a question. So I have a ton of emails that residents asked, since I feel like the election was so recent. And so I thought I would just go back and just basically ask some of the same questions that I had to answer. I'm glad that I'm not answering them today, though. So I'm just going to pick one of these emails, and I would like to know your stance on government shutdowns, like the ones that have occurred, and all the mandates that seem to keep coming.
Keeps coming.
and 1 minute for your reply.
Okay.
You were just fine last time. I just don't remember if I said that or not.
Okay. To be honest with me, I feel like, me personally, I feel like shutdowns are frustrating. I feel like that individuals in leadership should have the abilities to work together and to resolve issues before it comes to that stage. Is that answer?
Great. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yes, I agree with these guys. Your comments, very well spoken. I appreciate them very much. And how many steps ahead was the mayor in that race that you were talking about? Do you
So
remember?
I remember Chris and Brad Stapley, to be honest with you, and me, but it could have been Chris and even Brad and then me as third place, but I don't know how many steps.
Sounds like
He's
the mayor was
though.
fast.
He is fast. You gotta watch.
Well, I appreciate that. I love that we still do those races today. And, we start with young, and no one is too old to participate, right? It's everyone's welcome to race on the 4th and the 24th. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. We'll draw for the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Martinson.
So I'll get up here. Ben Martinson. Know many of you. Prepared a few words. Most of it will be very similar to what I put in my letter of intent. So if I bore you, deal with it. But Cody, as Cody was talking, Cody, yes, your words were spot on. I mean, City Council, those words hit, they resonated, and it actually made me think of Mayor Staley's presentation today at the Chamber Luncheon. And as Mayor Staley was presenting, he talked about the founders, and he put two pictures up on the screen. One of Parley P. Pratt and one of John D. Lee. And love me or hate me for it, but John D. Lee is my 4th great grandpa. And so to see that picture up there, it brought me back and centered me back into Washington City and the real reason that I have a draw to Washington City, as I'll speak to here in just a moment. But ever since our family moved in, I've always been involved in anything I possibly can here at the city. In one form or another, whether it's on Lions Club, whether it's cooking at breakfast, whatever that might be. And I've always had a desire to serve in Washington City because there is something unique that we have here in Washington City that other cities in the surrounding areas do not have. That's our heritage. Other cities have that, but I feel that Washington City's is deeper. It's where Dixie began. So that's why. And so as part of that and part of preserving that past and the future for future generations, I did have the opportunity to serve on the Planning Commission for 7.5 years. And so still try to stay involved in that process as much as I can. I still try to watch as many meetings as I possibly can when time allows. And just a little bit about myself, we're a family of 6, my wife and our 4 children, and we stay here in Washington City. Our kids all go to Vista Charter School out in Ivans, and my wife drives there every single day. It's 25 minutes there, 25 minutes back, and she makes that trip twice a day. And we don't want to move because there is something special about Washington City. And we've had the opportunity to move to Brazil. We've had the opportunity to move to Florida. We've had the opportunity to move to Alabama, and we've chosen to stay here in Washington City. Just a little bit about myself. I do feel that I would round out current city council, because of the work history that I have currently in sales and business development. I received my bachelor's degree here at Dixie State, received my MBA at Southern Utah University, and while going to school, I put myself through school with my own landscape company, and I've done many projects throughout the area. Led many teams of various sizes, and I've had the opportunity to make mistakes, and I've made my own mistakes in those leadership opportunities, but we learn and we grow from those mistakes. I learned and grew from the many mistakes that I made on Planning Commission, but it was a good learning experience, and I grew from it. And so a good leader will create unity rather than divisiveness. A great leader will also work with, listen to, and take into consideration all concerns of their team, and all of our amazing citizens are members of that team. A great leader will also remember personal freedom and property rights. With this balancing act, and always asking myself what is best for Washington City and the surrounding members of the community, I feel we can come to the best decisions and continue to make Washington City a great and wonderful place to live. Thank you.
Well said, and Mr. Martinson. Appreciate your remarks. Council, I'll turn to you for any questions you have for the applicant.
Do you have any specific goals that you'd like to focus on?
Yeah, it's one of those, we've talked previously amongst a few of you, and one of the positions I ran on, actually when I ran for mayor 4 years ago, was that of process improvements. And working with each of the department heads to see, we're doing this at Sun Warrior. So Sun Warrior is a private company, and we saw a massive turnaround. We're not a very big company, but we saw a significant turnaround in our revenue this last year because of just those simple process improvements, those continually improving every single day. And it'd be working hand in hand, not trying to disrupt anything that our department heads are doing or that our employees are doing, but just to take the opportunity to ask questions and seek to understand, why we do some of the things that we do. And those processes might be perfect already, but there's always, in my life anyways, there's always opportunity for improvement. So that would be one of the specific goals.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Martinson.
Thank you.
Adam Caldwell.
Say thank you to the sorting hat for bringing me up third. I realize we just have 3 to 5 minutes, and I know that some of you I have known for years, and those that already know me, your 3 to 5 minutes isn't going to give you a different opinion of me. It is what it is, and those that are meeting me for the first time, 3 to 5 minutes isn't enough time to let you know what a delight I am. But as far as me for my day job, 9 to 5, well, I wish it was 9 to 5. Attorney by day. I've been an attorney for the past 20 years here in St. George. My wife and I own the swim team here in town that we also practice in St. George at various locations. And then we own a few restaurants in St. George as well as up in Idaho. As far as personally, although I'm involved in law and my other businesses, my preference, if we have free time, is to talk about travel. I think my wife and I are at 73 countries now and hit another 8 this year, and the plans to hopefully get everywhere someday. Done, I think, now into 23 marathons. I usually will see Chris out on the trails. It's usually where I'll find him. From my, other than the marathons and half Ironmans I've been doing, from my current shape, obviously I don't do them well, but that's because I also enjoy eating food as well. which probably doesn't help with the restaurants. As indicated in the letter of intent, the agenda that I have is very simple, and that is I do not have an agenda for being on city council. Although I did say that, last night I did think of one item, and that is there is an old mattress that has been on the sidewalk next to, just up from my house for about 2 or 3 months. And maybe the first item is I'll figure out how do I get that old mattress removed.
I think we'd ask, why'd you put it there?
That's right.
You wouldn't have put it there, you wouldn't have it there.
You drag
so.
it out in the middle of the night, you expect it gone the next day. So, other than that, I believe I do get enough drama in my 9-to-5 job, and so I think you'll find me pretty low-key, pretty chill, pretty relaxed, and certainly I enjoy a good debate. But I also realize with City Council, for the most part, it seems like most of it's by consensus, and the dramas are hopefully far and few between, as I suspect. But anyways, I'll try to finish before I get to the quitting time sign. So I'll just say that
You're just fine on time. You're only
Perfect.
halfway through.
that's fine. I also like to be brief, so I'll just say I'm happy and available to serve, but I'm also glad to see that we've got some other great candidates for you to choose from. So with that, I'll turn it over for any questions.
All right, Council, you heard from Adam Caldwell. Any questions?
Yeah. So Adam, I got one, and I'm just curious, it seems like you're a very busy guy. Are you ready for a commitment of the council life as well with the time?
Yeah,
commitment you
so
need
the great thing about law is it's there whether it's at 2 in the morning or during the day. So there's certainly time there. The businesses, the swim team my wife runs, the other stores all have managers that run. So as far as being there, I do have the time. I don't have a lot of time, but obviously that was one of the decisions that I had to think carefully of, that if I was selected, would I have the time? Because obviously you don't want a candidate that is going to say, hey, pick me, and then they're nowhere to be found. So if you're going to sign up for something, you need to be there, and you need to devote the time necessary to do the job.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yep.
Maybe just a comment, we'll go ahead and get your mattress removed, so if nothing else, that was successful. Anyone else has any requests, let us know.
As long as you're making a list, Jeremy, you want some.
He's got it going right here. I'm watching him.
Kendall Clements.
I did not prepare any comments because I figured the best way to do it is just to get up here and speak from the heart. My wife and I moved to this area back in 2008, and we lived in St. George. And quite frankly, St. George is not as a welcoming community from where we came. We came up from Arizona, came here out of poverty and desperation. We lost everything and moved in with family. And St. George economically has been good to us. We've been able to create a thriving little business and build where there wasn't something before. And so the culture and the environment of this area is fantastic. But individually, we did not feel welcome into St. George. And years later, we had an opportunity to move, and we found a little teeny brick house in downtown Washington. And I think the first person that spoke said he's an Averett. We own their house now, the Averett family home in downtown Washington. And so I see kind of this theme here that a lot of people are born and raised here, and I'm kind of unique in the sense that I'm not. But here's my experience and what's driving me to seek to serve in a city council position is when we moved to Washington, first and foremost, we thought it's going to be more of the same, and we're used to it. We're going to go forward with it. We've now made this a home, and we're going to stay here. But when we went and looked at that house, I heard a familiar voice over the fence, a person who I worked with years ago but had lost contact with, and it was Kenny Nilsson, who's my neighbor now. And I heard that voice because it's definitely distinct and unique. I popped my head over the fence and said, "Are you okay if I buy this place?" And he said, "Sure," and he welcomed me in. I thought, well, at least I have one friend in the neighborhood. And lo and behold, the entire experience changed. There's a culture in the city of Washington that's different. And as an outsider, when you've had a unique experience in town and you kind of go in with low expectations, then you have this experience with very good neighbors, very good community, the very good events, I love the pancake breakfast. I can walk out my door and across the street and I get pancakes, for me right there. It's that culture that I want to emulate more in my own life, but also we know our community is growing. We can't stand in the way of the growth, but we can manage it well. But more importantly, I want to take that culture, if I could bottle it and package it, promote it, and send it around the world, I would. The best way to do that, I think, is continuing those things that make this community fantastic. Some things I'd like to accomplish if I am selected as a candidate is I look at the cultural events that we do, and I want to build upon those. You look at all the shoulders that have put things together over time. Coming in with radical ideas and shifts isn't a healthy way. It's little tweaks, little adjustments. It's a little more elbow grease, a little bit more of what I can bring to the table to help lift those things up. I'd like to see more of that shares that culture out there. Going to my background a little bit, for those who don't know me, is I'm a real estate agent by profession. I'm a broker. I own a company called Escape Properties. We dominate in tourism. I operate and own vacation homes all the way from Virgin all the way out to Ivans. And I bring thousands of people every year to our community. They clog our restaurants. I'm sorry for that. And then they go home. But they always comment about how wonderful they had, what a great time it was down here. I help people find housing. I operate about 60 long-term traditional rental properties. And it's a significant concern for me is the reality of affordable or attainable housing out there. I see it firsthand when a person can't afford the rent or can't find housing. So I want to be part of a solution out there. And again, small little tweaks to how we do things, I think can make, inroads and improvements out there. I started with nothing when I moved here. In fact, I borrowed money as virtually homeless when I moved here. St. George has been good for us. I now employ 9 full-time people. I have another 19 or so that I employ as cleaners throughout the area. I feel like I'm able to give back to our community that way. I provide well over minimum wage jobs to retain my people. And so that's my little bit of background right there. Was that time's up, or I have 10 more minutes? Oh, I can't go 10 more minutes, but I think that gives a good idea of when I'm out there. You guys have my letter of intent that gives a little bit more information there. I'll just open it up to see if you have any questions for me.
Kendall, we appreciate you. We know you. Thank you for coming. Council, questions for Mr. Clements?
First of all, just congratulations on your success.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We appreciate, that's important work that you do. You talked a little bit about kind of tempering growth.
Yes.
In a way, would you share what that would look like from your perspective?
Well, there's a balance out there. I think it was mentioned earlier about having a balance between commercial and residential growth out there. But we know that we're facing a water challenge out there. If we don't address water, our growth is going to be curbed as it is, right? But I don't think we can shut off what a wonderful place our area is to grow into. But I think there's ways that we can help it grow so that we can retain our children in this community. Right now, as we have children, it's hard for them to find affordable or attainable housing to start to raise their families, where if they go to Dixie Tech, I think is now called, no, it's not Dixie Tech, Utah Tech. I don't want to leave the name Dixie out of it, but they graduate from there, where do they go? So it's looking at, do we shift lot sizes down? Do we reduce setbacks so that we can put more properties on a parcel of land that can make more attainable housing? Do we open up more rental avenues that a homeowner can utilize their property to create affordable housing? So ideas like that, because I don't know if we can control the people coming, but we can certainly manage what's available for them to stay.
Any further questions?
That was too easy. I was expecting really hard questions. So
We appreciate you, Mr.
All right.
Clements. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Martha Cram.
I
I come from old Utah stock. I'm a great-great-granddaughter of Hiram Smith and was named after his daughter that came across the plains from Nauvoo. So both sets of my parents and grandparents are from Utah. And post-Depression, my parents moved to Las Vegas, both sets of their parents, for work. And so I was born and raised in Las Vegas, went to high school and my undergrad college in Las Vegas. And when I was a young girl, my father owned a big apricot orchard on the Laverican Bench. So we spent a lot of time here tending the orchards as kids, and I loved the environment. And so as time went on, my parents retired here, and I traveled a lot in my career, and I've seen, most of the 50 states. And when I dropped the mic in my full-time career, I thought, where do I want to go? And it was back to this area. So my husband and I moved here 4 years ago. And shortly after I moved here, I became the HOA president out at Stookie Farms. And there was a whole host of people and problems when we would hold our meetings. So I got a good pulse in an area where we have a lot of growth out in the fields of what was going on and what some of the troubles were, and trying to kind of resolve some of those. I did a lot of multi-site management in my career, and some of the skills and stuff that I learned in doing that I think would be very helpful in the council. Also, I have had an opportunity to, in my church career, serve as the humanitarian chairman of our ward, which has flexed to be 800, and has been split twice in the field. So it included Sugar Plum, Iron Horse, Southern Vistas, and also Warner Gateway. And in doing that, I've had a chance to work with some of the local charities, and I was really taken back at how well things are run. I've had a chance to work on 2 projects with Switch Point, with the Dove Center, the Utah Food Bank, and I was just really impressed with how they do work in this area. I've seen, just since I've been here, and also spent time here as a young child, such exponential growth. And I think that was one of the reasons that I threw my hat in the ring. Is I came from a city that has won a lot of awards, and they've won awards because of how they are running the city. And it wasn't my idea, but my husband said, throw your hat in the ring, and I said, okay, here I am. I think that with that growth, there's a lot that could be done to help the city. I had an opportunity in the last election to vote for the mayor and several of you that are new to the council. One of the things that was expressed by some of the homeowners where I live is they were concerned about the measured growth, adequate green space. They were concerned about having a balance between amenities like grocery stores and things like that, as well as some of the open land and fields. And they were concerned about water. Some of the HOAs demand green front and backyards, and how do we deal with that? So those were some of the reasons, some of the concerns that came forward. I think it's important to get to know your candidate a little bit. What is their strengths and so forth? So I thought that it's important. I have a servant's heart. I'm willing to serve. I don't think you would take a position like this for the compensation. I love Washington City. I like to see the progress. In my previous career, I had to lobby at state legislature, Veterans Administration. I think some of those skill sets would lend itself well to this. I've also done a lot of large contracting, and I know you guys have to be involved in approving contracts and so forth. I'm very detail-oriented, tend to look at the big picture, and able to make decisions. I don't suffer from inertia. I'm comfortable with all walks of people, ages, etc., and feel like I could make a difference. And that's why I'm throwing my hat in the ring.
Well, thank you so much, Martha. Questions for Mrs. Cram?
Tell us just a little bit about your career, and then what city did you come from that was managed really well, that got awards?
Irvine, California.
Oh, okay.
In my career, I worked in the healthcare industry, and I began launching drugs and medical devices, and then I went into long-term care, assisted living, and so forth toward the latter part of my career. And I covered from Mississippi west to Hawaii, various geographies in that area.
So I was just going to ask real quick, you said you were successful on the HOA. Just one quick thing that you were successful with that you helped curve the HOA from having problems to not.
There was a poor communication going on between the developer. They haven't completely built out the development. So I bridged that communication and solved a lot of problems, reduced, not me just by myself, but the entire board. We reduced HOA fees and got stuff taken care of quickly.
Further questions? Very well said. Thank you, Mrs. Cram. Appreciate you. Corey Anderson.
How are you guys doing? So I'm Corey Anderson. Most of you guys know me. I was born and raised here in southern Utah. My wife and I, we have 5 children. We live here in Washington. Ages span from 23 to 5 with our kids and 1 grandchild. We own Alcoa Construction here in town. We build custom homes, multifamily, and remodeling primarily. My wife's the brains behind all that. She draws everything. She does all the architecture and tells me what to do. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to participate in city government, in civic affairs is the background that I come from. My family has always been involved in community service, community government, whether it's from the government side or in the school district side. My dad coached wrestling at Wayne High for 40 years, wrestling, baseball, and track. My grandpa was county commissioner and chief of police and the sheriff and about everything else in Panguitch and Garfield County. And I had a lot of respect for, being involved always. That's just what you did. We always were involved, always reached out. Some of the things I think that are key to the success of Washington City. I mean, right now we've got so much growth coming at us that we're at a crossroads where we can either become a suburb of St. George, where we basically get all the suburban sprawl, or we can remain, our own entity. We can remain a viable, thriving community of its own, and it's real easy to go one way or the other. And I mean, my livelihood is built on building homes for people or remodeling homes for people. But my son, he takes care of all of our field operations. He runs the job sites and so forth on homes that we're building. And when he and his wife were trying to move here, it's a real struggle. And I build homes and townhomes and things like that for a living. You'd think it'd be easy to find a place to live for my son. And they looked and they looked and they looked, and there's nothing available to rent, nothing available to buy. You can't buy land and build a house because it's so expensive that they can't afford it. You have first-time home buyers now trying to qualify for $500,000. you know, and prices keep going up and up. You know, it's kind of a spiral. And so we have to be able, I mean, Mayor Staley talked today in this luncheon, he talked about the missing middle, about, you know, squeezing out to where all we have are big projects or, you know, second homes, and there's nowhere for the people that actually live and work here and raise their kids here to live here. You know, and it takes smart governance to be able to look at a project and be able to balance, you know, what is best for Washington City, while at the same time, you know, balancing property rights. And I mean, people have the right to develop their property. And so we have to be able to look at that carefully, look at that strategically. I mean, a big thing, for example, is, you know, our commercial areas. I mean, in the past, St. George has sort of capitalized on the geographic areas, and they've placed a lot of their, you know, their key commercial areas right at the edge of Washington City. And as a result, they get the tax revenue from all the commercial, and we get all the traffic problems from it. I mean, look at the fields right now. You know, you can't get anywhere across town without spending a half hour, from which 5 years ago you should take 5 minutes. You know, and a lot of that is more people, more growth, but it's also that, you know, everybody in Washington is now being pulled, you know, right across the border into St. George to do all of their commercial, you know, shopping. While at the same time, like I said, we get all the backlogs, we get all the traffic, everything else. I mean, that's stuff that we have to really look at our general plan and look at, you know, where is growth taking us? You know, how do we plan for that in the future? Some of the other key things, I mean, I grew up, you know, in rural Utah, and it's really important to me, that hometown feel. You know, that's why my wife and I live here in Washington. And some of the key things that we can do to preserve that, some of the areas like Telegraph, you know, we can let it just sort of be a hodgepodge of whatever, you know, somebody happens to put up there, or we can come up with, you know, a collective vision of, okay, this is kind of what we want, you know, Telegraph and Main Street to look like. We want it to have a hometown feel. We want it to elevate the civic activities, you know, the parades and the 4th of July, you know, things like that. As far as my background, I've worked with the city, both Washington City and all the other, basically every city and county government office throughout Washington County, and also in multiple states. I've been able to see how the government operates. You know, I've been able to see what works, what doesn't work, you know, efficiencies. Served on Planning Commission, and really enjoyed my time there.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions or follow-ups to Mr. Anderson's comments?
Yeah, Corey, give us one example of how you've enjoyed the Planning Commission so far and the process, just real quick on that.
So, I mean, if you watch Planning Commission, you know, a lot of times some people might think it's boring. You know, I think it's really interesting. I mean, my wife and I will sit there. It's funny. I'll be on Planning Commission and she'll sit at home and pay bills and watch Planning Commission on the TV while she's or on the computer while we pay bills. You know, and it's, so I really enjoy the process. But one of the things that I really try to do when I'm on Planning Commission is usually we'll have, you know, there'll be some project that'll you know, it's been noticed, and a lot of times you'll have the whole entire chamber clear full of people, you know, sometimes really upset about this issue or that issue. And a lot of times people can come and they feel like the city doesn't listen to them. You know, they feel like they come, they ask a question, everybody says, okay, thanks for your time, and then that's it, and nobody ever addresses it. And on the other hand, you know, as a Planning Commission member, you know, we're not allowed to let public clamor, you know, change our position. So there's the catch. How do you listen to the public and not be influenced by, you know, an angry mob at the same time, right? So one thing that I've always tried to do is to, you know, look at the issues they have. When people come up to the podium and they raise issues, you know, go through and you can kind of make a list. Okay, these are all the issues that they really had. And a lot of times the majority of those issues you can tick off and you can say, okay, well, we can answer this question and this question and this question, and now, we can address those so people feel like they have their questions answered. You get down to the one or two, real items, and then you say, okay, how can we form a compromise so the applicant can still develop their property and exercise their property rights, but at the same time, they can get buy-in with the community so their neighbors don't end up hating them, for it. I feel like I've done a good job at that on Planning Commission, and that's probably one of the most enjoyable parts of it.
Further questions for?
What made you decide to, like, where you're already serving on the Planning Commission, what made you to want to pursue this position?
A glutton for punishment, right? Like I said, I want to be able to have a voice. I want to be able to make a difference in my community. I feel like I have the ability to work with all the council members. I feel like I have the ability to be a team player and help. One of the things that I do well is I'm really, really good at seeing alternative solutions to problems, rather than people, butting their heads, there's only choice A or choice B. I'm really good at finding compromises with people and building teams. That's how I built my entire business. I've coached wrestling for decades, and that's the same thing. You have to learn how to make a team out of what you get. So, as far as why did I want to do this, I felt that I had the ability to serve the citizens of Washington City, and the opportunity presented itself, and I feel like I would do a good job.
Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Anderson, and we also appreciate your involvement with the Planning Commission very much.
Thank you.
Cameron Black.
Good afternoon, probably good evening now. I can't stand up here and say I know every one of you, or I was born in St. George or Washington and lived here my whole life. But what I can say is we are home. One of the things about myself is I'm a father of 3 wonderful girls, ages 11, 9, and 6, and coming on 17 years of marriage with my wife. And the exciting thing is Friday we just gave birth to our first boy. So that's where my wife is. She's home with our little one, and we couldn't be more excited. When this opportunity came, I'm a big believer in timing. I'm not from around here. I was born in San Pete County. I'm a Utah boy. I graduated high school up in Logan, and I always said if I ever live anywhere, it's either Washington or it's Logan, but we chose Washington. But I've lived everywhere. Probably on my LOI, I've mentioned some of the states and cities that I've been to. With my current position with the company I work with, we're based out of Madison, Wisconsin. I'm the VP of sales for a large insurance carrier, which gives me the opportunity to travel all over the country. It's safe to say I've been to every state, and I can't tell you how many cities within that state that I've attended. And it's a clear picture for me that leadership in communities matter. It's amazing where I could leave Washington, fly out of St. George, go to a similar sized city in a whole different state, and it's just different. And it comes back down to the leadership. And as I sit on the couch in the evenings with my wife and we watch TV or have the news on, we sit there and we get angry, we yell. And when it comes down to it, it's why get angry? Let's do something about it. And that's the reason why I'm here today. Is I want to be involved. I want to help. Do I have an agenda to come and do certain things that I have ideas on? No. The biggest thing is help. I want to help collaborate, put our minds together. I look at everybody that's gone before me and probably those that are after me. This is a well-oiled candidate selection. I would be happy with anybody, filling that vacancy. But when I look at myself and the experiences that I've had, being able to work with different marketing organizations all over the country, I understand that conflict is always going to be there. You can have the best plan possible, you can have the best execution, But if you can't communicate and you can't get along with your members or the community or the people you're working with, it doesn't mean anything. And that's one of the skill sets that I have is I have the ability to connect with people, to align with people. Even though our differences, there might be major differences, we always find common ground and we can always move things forward. I'm all about advancing things. I don't like to stay idle. And this June will be 5 years of us living in Washington. We live up in the Green Springs area. And when we were looking to move here, I said, if we move to the southern Utah area, we have to live in Green Springs because that's where my wife's family is from. If you know Desert Hills Construction, Rogers Construction, that's my wife's side of the family. And I just love being up there and looking at the views. And just with the short amount of time that I've been here, there's been a lot of change. Probably not as much change as some of these other candidates have seen being here their whole lives, but I've seen change. I've seen even the intersection of Green Springs going up to my house, the congestion that can appear there. Obviously, there are challenges that we face today, challenges that we can't avoid, the water conservation, the commercial versus residential. There's a lot of things that we're aware of. Like some of the comments previous is my ability to see, my ability to look into the future, I feel would be a huge asset to this council. One of the things on my LOI that I put on there that might seem interesting is I'm one of the founders of a pharmaceutical company that specializes in opioids. Now, why would that matter to this? I like to engage myself in things that I believe in. Because I do travel quite a bit and I do have now 4 children, my time is precious. And so if I'm going to do something, I want to do something I believe in. And what's going on there when I had the opportunity to start that and the results we're getting from the pharmacology, we're going into human trial. And I bring that up because there's always going to be a need. It's not just focusing on what we're dealing with now, but it's also anticipating what we see in the future. And growth is happening whether we like it or not. You drive down the street, how many different license plates do you see out of the state of Utah? It can become frustrating, but we have to embrace it. And so it's being able to take the ideas that we have. I want to maintain the heritage that Washington has had for so many years. And when we visited, we always felt welcomed here. It's just a sense of desire. And looking at the council about why now, it comes back down to timing. When I went to meet the candidates several months ago and watched the election process, I wasn't ready. But for some reason, as I look now and what's going on in the not just the world, but our communities, I can't fix all those issues. But I want to start here at my home because I know the value the importance of, I know youth was mentioned, being able to bring my children up and to raise them in a community that they can cherish, that they can come back and talk about, hey, they were born here or they were raised here. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present my name and for taking me in consideration. And like I said before, everybody I've seen is fantastic. And I just am grateful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Cameron. Any questions for Mr. Black?
It's really thorough.
Well, I remember seeing you at the debates and appreciate you putting your name in.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
Can I say something, Mayor?
Please.
So is Richard your wife's grandfather?
Great uncle.
Great uncle, okay, excellent. So
That's all the questions I get.
Turns out you are local.
I guess heritage-wise, I am local. I married into it, that's for sure.
Can we claim San Pete? I heard you say San Pete County. I mean, we'll claim that, right?
Hey,
It's good
it's
stuff.
close enough, right? I mean, Snow College, Ephraim, so I do know small town. I know the heritage that brings. And so to maintain it with growth, it's important to know where we come from, but it's also more important to maintain, but also grow with what the future holds.
I'm going to just ask a question, and by virtue of fairness, you deserve a question a little more time.
Sure.
I'm over here looking through my question.
you got one?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I was just going to make a
Go
quick
ahead.
comment before you go.
Please,
Mayor.
and then if you have anything in response to his
Is
comment.
that you've been here since 2017. That's okay. I moved into Washington in 2016. I've been around for 20 plus years, but
Perfect.
you're local if you're in the area, and how I look at it. And
Hey,
we're
I
all a
like
growing
that.
community, and we can grasp onto this heritage that Washington has. And so I consider you local.
Well, I appreciate that. And I love the outdoors. I know we mentioned marathons. I've never ran a marathon, but I played every golf course here in the southern Utah area. So I like to get outside. I like to be involved. And I know Councilman Ivy, you asked about commercial to one of the candidates, and commercial is a huge thing to bring. And when I sat and listened to that question, it's taxes. I know we talked about taxes last time. It's who's paying those today. It's the residents. It's I think 10% is only coming from commercial, and everything else is coming from residential. So there's a huge demand and need, but the most important thing is we have to work together. We can't attack everything at once. We have to look at what's important now and then move forward.
So you were talking about the importance of getting involved locally. How will you defend the Constitution locally? This is a question I had too from a resident.
The Constitution means a lot to me, and in my professional career, it's affected when it comes to taking away our rights and freedoms. Like I mentioned earlier, traveling around this wonderful country, I've seen restrictions. I've seen people, I use the word abuse, but it's something that I've seen. And how I face it here in Washington City is I stand up to the Constitution, to what it stands for and what I believe it to be. And the biggest thing right there is freedom, that we have the choice to make our own choices dependent upon what we feel is right for ourselves, in my responsibility as a husband and a father to my children.
Thank you, Mr. Black. We appreciate you. Michael Green.
Good evening. My name is Michael Green, and I want to thank all of you for an opportunity to come up and be a candidate, but I withdraw my name. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Christine Wagner.
I'm Christine Wagner, and we brought our family to Southern Utah 26 years ago, and I was immediately drawn to Washington Fields. And so in 2006, we built a home next to one of my favorite places in Washington, which is Staley Farm. And coming from Las Vegas, it felt just like Washington City was a little piece of heaven. The people were warm and friendly. Neighbors jumped in and helped each other without being asked. And so it's my hope that I can help preserve that culture and at the same time prepare for the changes that we know are coming with growth. My educational background is political science. I have a bachelor's degree from BYU, and I did an internship for Congressman Tom Lantos in Washington, D.C. for a semester. When we moved to St. George, I helped my husband build our business from the bottom up, and so I have some experience there, knowing what that entails. And during that time, over 20 years, I spent a great deal of time volunteering in the community, in the schools, both in the classroom and on community councils. I served on the board of 2 charter schools, and so I know what it's like to work on a board at both Success Academy and George Washington Academy. I served on the state committee for curriculum for social studies, and I've fought tooth and nail against Common Core and SAGE testing. I've attended the United Nations twice as part of a coalition to support families and promote education. I helped organize our local pro-life chapter, and as a matter of fact, we have our March for Life this Saturday at 10:30. and I co-founded the group Citizens for Constitutional Government. And so over the last 3 years, we've brought dozens of speakers in from all over the country to help teach our citizens and ourselves the rights and responsibilities that we have in this republic. And as you know, our legislative session started today. And so for years, every time the legislative session begins, I spend the next many weeks tracking legislation and reaching out to representatives and senators and asking them to support or oppose bills that I think are going to affect our community. And so I hope that if there's a way that I can serve our community on the council, I would love to do that.
Well, thank you, Christine. We appreciate your remarks. I'll turn to the council now for questions that you have for Mrs. Wagner.
Christine, I have a question I'd like to ask you. It sounds to me like you're very well read, Constitution and the importance that we have as citizens. But if you could share one word that describes what your responsibility would be on the council in one word, what would that be?
One word is difficult. I would say defending our rights, protecting our rights. Yeah.
What made you decide to run for this position?
I believe that we need to serve where we can and help where we can. And so if I can help, I hope that you'll choose me. If not, we have so many wonderful candidates. I wholeheartedly support whoever you choose. So.
Further questions?
Just want to make sure your husband's okay. You said he had an accident when I talked to you, so everything's good?
He's good.
Good,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad to hear that. So,
Thank you.
But just go into a little bit on property rights, what your thoughts are on property rights and all types of property rights, from people who own homes to people who own the land that can be developed.
Yeah, I think that gets, that's really tricky because we form cities because we want to live together as a community. And so I've always felt like if someone owns a piece of property and they put a mobile home on it and spray paint it orange and they're next to me, it's really none of my business because it's their property. They can do with it what they want. At the same time, we do live together in a community where we have come together for certain reasons. And I recognize that, one of the main reasons that we have a city council is to administrate services, our police, our fire, those kinds of things. But we also need to make decisions where we're making a better city so that we're not just growing crazy with streets that are so congested we can't get across town, and so there is a balance there.
Thank you, Mrs. Wagner. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Brandon Bulow.
Well, thank you, Councilman, Councilwoman, and Mayor, for the opportunity to be here today. And it's been an eye-opening experience as we've sat and listened. And there's some great individuals who want to serve here in Washington City. I'm Brandon Bulow, mostly born and raised, I can say. We lived here 27 years. The only time outside is for a church service mission as well as attending a university. I've had the opportunity to attend school here, to play sports, and ultimately made the ultimate choice to raise my family here in Washington City. And I find that's the most important part. As I decided to enter this and look at an opportunity to serve as a council, this isn't something I've taken lightly. For many years, I've had conversations with family and friends and other leaders, local leaders, as well as other leaders around that have talked about the opportunity to serve as this council. And it was never the opportunity to run due to some family life circumstances. Every time it would come up, my family life would change, and I wasn't able to throw my name in officially as a candidate. But today is the day, and I made a commitment that this is my time to serve. From a young age, I was taught multiple things, but I was taught to love God, love city and country, and to love my family. These decisions have driven me in all decisions of my life. I was taught this from grandparents, parents, teachers, coaches, and many other great leaders. I've had the opportunity to drive results and experience success both professionally and personally by making the ultimate and best decisions for individuals and families. As a longtime resident, I've grown with this community. I have matured and grown from a young Boy Scout doing flag ceremonies and rec sports where I may have sometimes lost my cool, to one who strives to be active in my community. I enjoy the members of this community and communicate with many of them regularly, both personally and professionally. Each Memorial Day, my family spends hours decorating graves around the area. Some of the earliest residents here in Washington County, the Bastions, we spend multiple hours decorating and cleaning graves. We celebrate heritage and come to recognize those who have come before us. I had the opportunity to see my kids attend the same school as I attended, to have them be taught by teachers who changed my life, to play sports on the same fields, and to associate with these great individuals and people. I have no individual interest in serving our community except to just do that, serve. My desire is to be a public servant. One of my favorite movies is Miracle. In a famous scene, Coach Herb Brooks is skating his players over and over again. He gives some amazing one-line quotes in this 7-minute clip, but 2 of them I use regularly. First, this cannot be a group of common men. Common men go nowhere. And then the name on the front is more important than the name on the back. You see, we as individuals have power. We have the ability to make changes for good or bad for that matter. But as a unified front, true power lies. There will always be differences in opinion and beliefs. We can all be from our own families, each one an individual and unique, but representing Washington City is more important than any single individual. It is a collective group making decisions and choices that are the best interests of the community and the people we serve. I look forward to working side by side with you, listening to our citizens of this great community and helping keep Washington the place not only I and us chose to live, but others want to raise their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate your comments. Council members, any questions for Mr. Bulow?
Mr. Bulow, would you share a little bit about what your community service experience has been, what you've done and been involved with?
Yeah, so I've served from the time I was young on multiple committees here at Washington City, helping plan 24th of July celebrations, as well as things multiple times as a Boy Scout. As I matured, I've had multiple opportunities religiously to serve in leadership, as well as to serve with many individuals. Professionally, I work closely with others, with commissioners through the finance sector that I work with, and I currently, for the last 6 years, have sat on Washington Elementary's Community Council, where we decide what funds are to be spent through trust land monies.
Thank you.
Further questions?
Mr. Bulow, what do you think your greatest, contribution personally would be to the city council if you were to be elected?
So I think 2 things. Because I don't have a hidden agenda, I feel like service will be my number 1 thing. I'm willing to serve all, but that comes through listening. That comes through listening to our citizens. It comes through listening to departments and all those who seek an understanding, and I will do that. I will seek understanding and listen.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Bulow. And our last applicant, Marissa Thane.
I was beginning to think I wasn't in the hat. But here I am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Marissa Thane. I apologize because many of you have heard my spiel a few hundred times by now, so bear with me for 101. I had the privilege of growing up in southern Utah, and my husband and I chose Washington City to raise our family 15 years ago. I have a bachelor's degree from Southern Utah University and have spent time working for the local public health agency, the school district, and owning my own business. I have also had the privilege of serving throughout the city in many capacities. I'm passionate about Washington City, our heritage, and the exciting opportunities our future. Campaigning for city office the last 6 months has given me a deeper love and connection to our community. Speaking to citizens one-on-one and hearing their passions, their ideas, and yes, even a few complaints, has allowed me to develop a broader understanding of our city's needs and the vision our citizens want to build. Developing these relationships has been fulfilling and has rebuilt my faith in humanity and our hometown. In a world, In a world full of negativity and absolutes, I found understanding, compassion, listening individuals who wanted to share their beliefs and respect others' opinions. Washington City, in my opinion, a great example to our country of what being an American means. Running for office has also allowed me to educate myself with city staff. I was able to meet with department heads, hear their ideas and their areas of needs. We are fortunate to have a great staff that love and care for our city. I also have been attending city workshop, council meeting for the past year. This has given me a great insight on the workings of the city, the upcoming projects, and the areas of need. It has prepared me to be able to jump in and get right to work if appointed. In closing, I will say this. This room is full of great candidates because Washington City is full of great people. But the last year, I have spent my time doing the work. I have been in the meetings, and most importantly, I've been on doorsteps of citizens, hearing what they want for their community. In a non-presidential election, which has historically low turnout for our city, myself, Councilmember Casperson Henderson, and Mayor Staley received more votes than in any other election in our city's history. Our citizens showed up. They made their voices heard, and I believe that should always be the loudest voice in this chamber.
Thank you, Marissa. Questions for Mrs. Thane?
Well, I feel like we have been campaigning for 6 months, so I feel like I know a lot about you. But when residents would ask you about what you felt about government mandates, what would you tell them, and what is your view on it today?
I think Skousen says it best. He says the proper role of government is to protect rights, not provide equal things. And I think that's our role as government. I don't believe that I believe they were overreaching. They shouldn't be able to mandate and I think our courts have upheld that and showed that our Constitution shined through in the end.
Mrs. Thane, what's the most prevailing message from our citizens that you could deliver to the council today?
They want to be heard. And I don't think we can ever be at a point where we don't listen. And that should be something we're always striving to. Even if we think we're great at it, we can always improve. Always.
Marissa, what is your biggest strength that you would bring to the city council?
I'm pretty passionate, obviously. And I have a hard work ethic. My heart and soul would be to this like it has been for the past year. So since I moved into the city.
You have time. That was your original 5 minutes.
I'm
I was
good.
listening so intently that I forgot to keep track. Further questions? Council, may I ask a question? Marissa, I've seen you at almost every workshop session, every council meeting. I've seen you at the open houses and at the debates. What is the different level of preparation for someone like you who has put your name in there and has been working to hear the people versus someone who maybe has not done that and is just now coming in and asking to be appointed? What difference does that make in this process?
Well, for me, it's prepared me and stretched me in ways and made me aware of situations that I wasn't aware of. And I think mainly it helps you be current on city issues, what the city is dealing with every day, which 90% of is land use. But if you're not here, it's really hard to stay in that loop to me. The second part of that, I think, is being in touch with the citizens. The past 6 months, really just that one-on-one conversation, because citizens are intimidated, just in general, that tends to be a notion. And when you're standing on their doorstep, they really open up to what they really are scared of, what they really want. And so for me, I think that gave me a real insight on the heartbeat of our community.
And I might just ask one final question, is how would you see yourself working in harmony with this mayor and council if appointed?
I have relationships with all these people, and I've campaigned with half of them, which gives you, I have mutual respect. Do I agree on every issue with them? No. And I don't think the council should agree on every issue, because that wouldn't be an accurate representation of their community. Their community is diverse, and your council should be diverse. You should be able to make a decision, and then you move on to the next issue at hand. And I think I'm very capable of that.
I have a quick question, because that's true. Like, we've had things that me and you, it's okay not to agree upon everything. And I'm just wondering, how you have been open about feeling like wanting to make change. You were publicly known about wanting to change the name Dixie State. Do you think that we should also change like where Dixie begins and change, Christmas in Dixie? Does that also?
No. In fact, my family owned a business called American Dixie Self-Storage for 35 years. I think when it comes to the university, it was the right decision for the university. It's going to allow it to grow and do the right things that it needs to do. Do I think that affects Washington City? No. And would I ever tell a private business what to name their business? Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Thane. At this point, I'll ask each council member to look in their email inbox for their... Before I do that, is there any final discussion or comments that would like to be made before I open it up for the voting?
I'd like to comment if I can, Mayor. This is really hard for me. But since I only have one vote, and I really wish I had many votes, because there's many of you that I would vote for in a heartbeat, and would be honored to work with you. And so that's what's hard about this for me, is that I only have one vote. And I want to just say how much I appreciate all of you that have signed up for this. It's a big deal. So thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you. It's not easy getting in front of people and doing this, and so I agree with Brett. Basically, it's been a hard decision, but I appreciate all of you for showing up today.
Yeah, I'd like to also say that I've said after running a campaign and it's hard to put your neck out there. So I appreciate the citizens to put their neck out there and say, hey, I want to help. And everybody in this room wants to help. I can tell. And that's why we're all here. And so I'm looking forward to whoever that next council person is. I'm excited for it.
Okay. I would just echo those words. Councilman Ivy, did you have anything to add to that?
You know, Mayor, my heart's full. It's been an emotional day for me. I went 10 to 2 funerals, and being here today, I guess I just would like to share my love for our community as well. I've known a lot of the applicants for a long, long time. I respect them as great leaders and tremendous involved individuals in our city.
I think I am accurate and speak for each of us in saying that we will be well served with whoever is appointed this evening. And it's not an easy choice. At this time, I'll ask the council to open up their ballots with the reminder that this is the first round of voting. And as such, you will select 2 applicants from those who are present. And also ask you to, on the top of your ballot, to write your name. And I will give you plenty of time to do that. And I'll look to you for a nod that you voted before I close this voting period. So I'll defer to our city recorder and deputy recorder if there's any questions there.
Are we ready? Do we open with Chrome? What do you open with? mind asking for permission?
I guess this builds some suspense, right? We'll just give it a minute here. We've had meetings that have lasted a lot longer than this.
To get it to work.
No, I did not.
It might go quicker in the second round.
Should we try it again? Mhm. Mhm. I had to go through Safari.
Do we have all of the ballots submitted?
We do.
All right. Tara Pence, City Recorder.
I'm going to have Lexi put the results up on the screen as well. But our top two are Ben Martinson and Cody Mitchell. Ben Martinson has 3 votes and Cody Mitchell has 2 votes. So they'll be moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our first, we're now moving into the second round and the final round of voting. I'll invite, I'll just remind you that we'll give you again 3 to 5 minutes. And then if the council has additional questions, you'll have 1 minute to respond. And Ben Martinson, you're first.
I didn't prepare anything, but I did take some notes while we were going through this process. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here again. And I just took notes of everybody who submitted their name for this opportunity. Cody Mitchell, Adam Caldwell, Kendall Clements, Martha Cram, Corey Anderson, Cameron Black, Michael Green, Christine Wagner, Brandon Bulow, Marissa Thane. I know some of you, I know most of you. I would love for the opportunity, regardless of the outcome, to get to know each of you a little bit more, to see how we can further the work here in Washington City and how we can serve best in whatever capacity that is. And so I just leave that invitation open to each of you. I connected with anybody who is on LinkedIn, so look for that connection request, and we can communicate that way. All of my contact information is there, so I leave that invitation open, and I don't really have anything else other than that, just to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ben. I'll turn to the council now to see if there are any further questions.
Yeah, Ben. So what would be your first kind of thing that you're looking to do on council if we were to appoint you to this position?
First thing would really be to get to know city staff again. I ran back in 2011. I ran for mayor back in 4 years ago. I ran for city council 2 years ago. For the opportunity, looked for the appointment last time it was open when Councilman Clough moved, and I got to know city staff then, but it's been a little while. So first responsibility would be to get to know city staff, the department heads again, and really also get to know city council members on a deeper level and mayor on a deeper level, to find out exactly how we are going to work together to make Washington City an even better place to live.
Further questions?
Ben, tell us a little bit about your personality and how you think your personality might fit in with the city council, and also what are some of your strengths that you think you could bring if you were voted in today?
Personality, where do I start? I'm the same with everybody. You really get what you see. I don't change to the situation. I'm open, I'm honest, as all of the other candidates are as well. But you get what you see. You're going to hear the same thing from me as I'll tell to Kimberly, as I'll say to Kimberly, as I'll say to Craig. It's going to be the same thing. And that's how it's always been, because we talk about it at work all the time. And, there's several things in life, right? You come to your deathbed and there's several things that you're not ever going to regret. But one of those things is you'll never regret having too much integrity. And you'll never regret being too kind. And so sometimes that, I would say that is the biggest strength that I have, is that integrity. And too kind can be a weakness if you let it, and you're naive to the situation, but you have to know the situation.
Any questions from this side?
I know you got one, Kurt.
I just appreciate you, Ben.
Thank you.
We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to take a little bit of mayor privilege and ask you a couple questions on topics that are particularly pressing and particularly important at this time. We're working within Washington City and collectively throughout the county on a landscape ordinance. We're also working with the Washington County Water Conservancy District to potentially, hopefully, bring forward the Lake Powell pipeline. We're all collectively throughout the county, each municipality, we're working hard to address our challenges with transportation. And one of those challenges that we have is the northern corridor. Would you please speak clearly as to your position on both of on the landscape ordinance, the Lake Powell pipeline, and the northern corridor?
Yeah, those are two interesting topics of conversation, and I actually did take some notes on those. One, because they were talked about at the Washington City Chamber luncheon today, and I thought these might come up. And so I've done a lot of research on that Lake Powell pipeline, and I've always been of the stance where we need to conserve where we can. We need to start there so that we can continue to live in the desert, as you've succinctly said in that chamber presentation. 2 years ago, being candid, which is one of the things that I am, I actually openly opposed the Lake Powell pipeline. But I've done a lot of research since, and we've had that exponential growth that has happened in those 2 years. And so in doing that research and looking at the conservancy options that we have, we need to take those measures now. But I also think that that Lake Powell pipeline will be needed. And so we need to do those things in an effort and not just 100% rely on that Lake Powell pipeline, because it may or may not come. So we need to take those measures now so that we can keep what we have. And then the northern corridor, I like the northern corridor. Washington City's done their parkway. I take that parkway every morning from work. I head up north on Main Street, take the right on the parkway, and hit the freeway. So it is extremely convenient for me. The only thing I don't like about the northern corridor is where it comes out. That's the only issue I have with the northern corridor. I wish we could figure out a way to put it somewhere else.
You're talking on the west side?
Correct, on the Pioneer Parkway side. So I was really hopeful that they'd put it up a little higher on the highway, but pylons are there and everything's there, but it's not there anymore. So it is what it is.
Council members, Councilman Henderson.
Ben, can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on commercial development in Washington City, and maybe a little bit about, Washington Fields, and maybe in particular a little bit about downtown, if you have any kind of a vision about our downtown development?
Yeah, so those are good places. And when I was on Planning Commission, the Sullivan property right there at the corner of Sandia and 2000, we actually pushed for that commercial property there. Some citizens didn't like it, but it puts a stop there. It puts an opportunity there for a little more tax base that we need, because eventually, if we don't get that tax base, we will become a bedroom community, and it'll hurt everybody's pocketbook worse than inflation is hurting our pocketbook now. Commercial development, I actually took a note of that too. I didn't bring it up in the initial discussion, but I've known Rusty, the economic development director, for quite some time. I worked with her when she was at the St. George area economic development, and she's doing a fabulous job. And so we need to do everything we can to bring that commercial business here to Washington City. And I would love to lend a hand in that, whether appointed or not, bring that sales and business development experience to Washington City, as I've done with Sun Warrior, and being able to do that. And then downtown, man, if we could redevelop downtown and bring some commercial there. Mayor Staley brought up Burger Place. I wasn't here too long before that got demolished, but I did enjoy, I wasn't a student at the time, I took a break, but their fry sauce was amazing. I got hooked on fry sauce. And then Nison's, I think we made daily trips to Nison's Mercantile. And so we need to do something with our downtown area, small sandwich shop, whatever that looks like, to accentuate the beauty that we already have, which is Veterans Park and Nison's Park.
Further questions?
Have
Thank
you
you,
had a
Ms.
chat? Oh, sorry.
He said thank you already, so
Okay, go ahead.
no, I'm joking.
Have you had a chance to look over the budget at all, and is there any any changes that you see, or things you'd want to take away, or things you?
Deep dive into the budget, I have not. I did see the presentation today, and if I wanted to take a real deep dive into it, I could just go up the street and talk with Brian Brown, and he would detail me out anything and everything that I would want to know. So I have not taken a deep dive into it. I've looked at previous years, but not current year budget as of yet.
I won't let you ask me any questions like you said you were going to.
Thank you, Mr. Martinson.
Thank you.
Want to hold it? I don't think it's going to be a surprise who comes out.
Carrot pants.
Cody Mitchell. You have the first word and you'll get the last.
First, I was glad to see Ben go first the second time. It's been a great experience to be here. It's humbling. Makes you kind of feel like a small fish in a big pond. The candidates that have presented today are remarkable, and it does show, the caliber of our city and the people that come here. As I took a few notes during the meeting, I had the thought of a couple of thoughts that I'll share. My family and I like to do the hike up Snobkai, and it's been amazing, the changes that happen over such a short amount of time and how quick the valley is filling. So with that thought, it does make you think. I mean, I don't think it's any surprise that people want to be here and that the people are coming. It's how to manage that and how to protect it, I guess, and to develop it as it should be, and how it has been. I guess we live here because we love it. The people are great. It's a great family atmosphere. Another thought I had was recreation. The Sullivan fields have been remarkable. My kids play soccer, and they're top quality. Like, if you want to play soccer in southern Utah, you want to play at Sullivan Park. That's been a great addition to our community. I feel like the trail system is remarkable as you have the chance to ride your bike and run on the trails, and then the new bike lanes that are happening in the city are great. These are things that I hadn't really thought of, but I feel like are keys to a great city as well, to allow people to come here and to enjoy it. I think that's really most of what I had. The other thought I had, though, too, was, this is all roses, and we talk about all the good things, but I think Corey Anderson touched upon, the challenges of city council when you have people coming with plans, and there will be, conflicts. There are contention. There's division, and that's something that the individual needs to be able to handle and to participate, to work together to manage and get through. I think that will be an important piece to serving on city council. And leave it at that. Open it up for questions.
Council?
Cody, I really appreciate you. I want to ask you the same questions that I asked Ben, and that is, tell us a little bit about your personality and how you think, it would fit in with the council, and what your biggest strengths would be to share with the council, and then also about commercial development, and what your vision is for that, why we need it, and then a little bit about downtown, what your vision might be for downtown.
Okay. Can I go backwards, I guess? The commercial development. I feel like there's key contributors to a city. I mean, you do need that commercial. You need small business opportunities, whether it be buildings with certain number of tenants that can, or businesses that can come and to function out of there, whether it be, our service providers that orthodontics and dentists, or the things that contribute to the city that the city needs to thrive on, or to be able to live here. I think those are key things that need to come. As far as locations and zoning, I can't say that I'm that educated on where that might be or what the city's real plan looks like, but and it does come in pieces, I feel like, with individuals owning property, and then eventually it sells, and then it gets developed, and different things happen. But I think as a city, there should be a vision in place, so that when those things do happen, that we're prepared. Sorry, my time is up, but sorry,
No,
Brent,
I did it 3 times.
Okay,
now.
3 times.
I'm a rookie mayor.
Anyway, sorry, Brett, what was your first question? Can I ask you again? Personality.
Oops. What are some of your strengths that you feel like that, would work out good up here?
So I personally feel, my personality is, I'm somewhat can be quiet and observant, and but attentive, to hear concerns that individuals might have, or to maybe feel for them. It reminds me of an experience that I had. A family, my wife's family sold some property, and it was developed, and there was some concerns or questions. But my father-in-law knew Mr. Ivy and reached out to him, and I was very impressed, with Kurt's reaction to that request, and coming out, came to the property, met with him, took his time to hear my father-in-law's concerns, and that's kind of stuck with me. As I've sat in this meeting, I look at that as a great example of one to serve, someone that can be available to listen. But also, you've got to be able to work with people too. You won't see eye to eye all the time, and as a whole, the vote is taken, the decisions are made. You've got to then rally behind those that did vote for whatever took place, and to have their back, and to help move it forward, make it happen.
Further questions?
Yeah, I have some questions, or a question. So, never met you, Cody, until tonight, so it's good to meet you. I mean, I read your portfolio. But the thing I wrote down when you spoke is I said, I like the way you speak, and I like that. So I just wanted to let you know I like you there. But my question is, how do you feel your role as a council member? How would you feel that role? Like, one of the things you would like, same question I asked Ben, would be the first thing that you would want to look at as a council member?
To be honest with you, I feel kind of new to the experience. I don't feel completely educated. I would come with a desire to learn, and to become familiar with, some of those greater issues that the city does have, challenges with. So if I were appointed, I would be there to learn. I would look to you who have been elected as an opportunity for me to become more familiar with those situations, to learn from you. I feel like too, even in the room, there's a lot who have participated in many meetings, have been on the planning commission and done different things. I come as a team player to learn from you and then to serve with you.
Thank you.
I'll look to this side of the council.
Mr. Mitchell, today's the first day of a 45-day legislative session. There's over 1,000 bills, and some of them drill down on affordable housing. The state feels like that if the city can't afford or can't make those hard decisions, that they'll step in and do it. Can you share what some of those thoughts are for us to achieve attainable housing? It's obviously very difficult. It brings in a lot of entities, but I'd just like to hear with your expertise what your...
So I do have a background in construction. As a business owner here locally, I have been involved in construction. We also do fabrication. I've seen different plans presented, and I've actually seen different plans come across me personally for different options for affordable housing, whether it be the tiny homes or, you know, the apartment complexes or so I feel like there's a wide variety of options. I do see Southern Utah being a challenging place for a young starting couple to come to. It's just the reality that we're in. And sadly, that's part of just because it's so popular, people wanting to be here. But then how do we make it so that our children can stay? Personally, I feel like it would have to be planned for. Obviously, there's different options out there. Finding the location for them or the place in the city that they could take place and not cause problems. I feel like there's land available to do that. It's coming up with the right solutions, the right plan, the right whatever it might be, whether it be small homes or different options to make it work. But it would take planning and putting it together.
Councilmember Casperson, any questions?
The hard questions.
I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
In fairness, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Ben. Would you just share your views in regards to the landscape ordinance and the Lake Powell pipeline, recognizing that water is the issue of our time? And with respect to traffic and growth, would you share your feelings about your position on the Northern Corridor?
Okay, I don't like congestion. When I drive, I like to go and to get places. So I'm not against options of ways to travel and to relieve congestion. If that means the Northern Corridor to get us from A to B, makes sense. That is beautiful up there. When you go to the north end of Green Springs and you look out, I mean, that is prime. I mean, it's just beautiful. So the recreation there, I think, is valuable as well. But I do feel like getting from A to B and then how it's developed to make it accessible for everyone is important. The pipeline, I put a note down as Ben was discussing that. Water's mandatory, and how you get it, you have to find ways. I mean, if the city wants to continue to grow, obviously we've got to bring in the resources to make that possible. If it means the Lake Powell pipeline, then we work with those who are capable of making that happen. You work together with the different cities that will be affected by it and come together as a whole and make those decisions if that works. The other thought came to me is, okay, what if that pipeline, I think Ben mentioned too, but what if the pipeline doesn't happen? Then what does the city do to, obviously that would probably include some regulations. It could involve landscape regulations or more strict landscaping to make sure that we don't abuse the water that we do have. Because ultimately, if we want to live, we've got to have drinking water. Other things can be cut back or managed so that we can live. Otherwise, we don't need any of it, right? So that would be my thought there.
I'll quote former Washington County Water Conservancy District Manager Ron Thompson, who said, "If you have water, you have a lot of problems. If you don't have water, you have one problem." Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate your application. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, you guys.
Okay. At this time, I will ask the council to look for your ballots in your email. Make sure you're logged into your city email through Safari, and you'll have the top 2 candidates on there. You'll vote for one. And if you can just kind of, the recorder will let us know when all the votes have been received. Correction, whatever your last browser was. So, we are an evolving city, and we're learning to use technology to our benefit. I imagine there are several residents watching from home right now, and we have that ability, whereas a lot of other municipalities don't. So I appreciate your patience with us as we use technology, and of course, everything we do in government is transparent. So these votes are not secret. I will, while we're waiting for these votes to come in, I will just tell the council this, that you'll make your vote. We will, the recorder will announce the results, and then we'll have the opportunity to make a motion to certify.
There's a new email. There it is. All right.
Now you should just do it filled out. Did yours work, Councilmember Coates?
I saw the email finally. Oh, that's so weird. All right, sorry. You have to do it twice. You have to vote and then vote again. It made me vote, and then it kicked up the actual website to vote.
Mayor and council, your new council member is Ben Martinson with a unanimous vote.
Congratulations, Ben. Cody, congratulations to you and to each of the applicants who have been here tonight. We really appreciate you. I ask that you don't leave just quite yet. We're going to formalize and finish this process by moving on to item 2B, which is consideration to appoint a member to the City Council through the vacated term ending December 31st, 2023. So I will now call for a motion, and I will be specific in some of the verbiage that I'm asking for in that motion. So if someone is ready to take note, I'll read the motion as it should be stated, or similar to how it should be stated.
I'm ready, Mayor.
So the motion needs to incorporate three things. I will call for a motion to finalize the council's consideration of the applicants, basically ending the interviews, to accept the council's vote to fill the 2-year midterm vacancy of the Washington City Council by appointing Ben Martinson, who meets the required legal qualifications for such an appointment. And if it would be easier, I can show you my verbiage here, unless you got it.
I'm taking bullet points, but if you want me to just read it. So just the stuff highlighted. So I'll make a motion that we finalize the council's consideration of the applicants to exceed the council's vote and to accept the council's vote and to fill the 2-year midterm vacancy on the Washington City Council by appointing Ben Martinson, who meets the required legal qualifications for such an appointment.
I have a motion by Councilmember Coates.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Councilmember Casperson. And I think I'd like to call for a roll call vote on this one. Ivy.
Aye.
Coates.
Aye.
Henderson.
Aye.
Casperson.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Congratulations, Ben. At this time, we are going to ask you to come forward. With your experience on the Planning Commission and your experience and service throughout the community, we're not going to waste any time. Tara Pence, our city recorder, is prepared to swear you in right now.
How do you want me to stand?
However you want. Probably so I think you're gonna get your picture, so.
Do we have to?
Yes. That's my cheat sheet for when I
Perfect.
get nervous. You'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Ben Martinson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah.
and the Constitution of the State of Utah.
I do also solemnly swear
I do also solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the laws and ordinances
the laws and ordinances
of Washington City,
of Washington City,
and I will discharge my duties. I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Ben, this is your seat. Congratulations. We're going to allow you to have a seat. If you'd like to say anything, we'll adjourn the meeting and then we'll stay around for some pictures. Go ahead and have a seat in your chair. And is there anything that you'd like to say to those in attendance tonight before I call for a meeting to adjourn?
No, yes, I'll say yes. Just rather quickly, I took some notes as Cody was talking, and I just I wanted to personally remember what Cody said, what every individual here said, because everybody said something that struck me. And so I took notes of that, and as an appointed individual now, I will do everything I can to stay true to what everybody talked about. And I'll just talk, Cody, in his closing, in the second portion of the interview, he talked about family atmosphere. talked about recreation. He talked about service. He talked about working with people, not having hurt feelings. Be open to learn from everyone, be a team player, and serve with the council. And there was a common theme tonight amongst all of the applicants, and it was service. The other theme was heritage. And so I will do my very best. Again, the invitation has been sent out. My phone number is very public. You can find it. Just Google my name, and my cell phone number is there. My email address is there. It's all public information. So I would love to hear from any of the other applicants and any of the citizens who are here tonight, and see what I can do to help be a positive contribution to Washington City.
So let me be the first to address you by Council Member Martinson. And in so doing, I'll ask that you make the motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion by Martinson.
Second.
Second by Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.